You pick up your phone, nothing. You open social media and watch strangers laughing, celebrating, belonging, and somewhere deep in your chest, something tightens. A silence settles in, a specific suffocating kind of silence. Society has a diagnosis for you. It says you are damaged. It says that being alone means you are broken, antisocial, a human being who has somehow failed at the most basic requirement of existence. They have names for you: loner, outcast, misfit. But what if they are completely wrong? What if your solitude is not a flaw in your design, but a feature of it? What if the reason you have few or no friends is not because you cannot connect, but because your psychology is built to refuse connection that is false? There is a principle in evolutionary biology. As an organism grows more specialized, more lethal, more precise, its circle contracts, sheep move in flocks, lions move in prides, but the tiger moves through the world alone. If you are watching this, you have probably spent your entire life feeling like you were born on the wrong frequency. You tried to fit. You wore the smile. You said the right things. But it never held. It always slipped. And somewhere underneath all of it, you have always sensed that your mind works differently from the people around you. You are right. Today, we are going to break down 7 specific traits found in people who walk alone. These are not quirks or flaws. They are adaptations. By the time this ends, you will understand why your circle is small, why ordinary people find your standards unsettling, and why your solitude is not your weakness. It is your greatest advantage. But I am warning you now, this is not comfortable viewing. We are going to dismantle the story you have been telling yourself about being a victim. We are going to hold up a mirror. And what you see may unsettle you. Trait 1. Hyperacute pattern recognition. Most people move through their relationships on autopilot. They hear the words, "I love you, I am here for you, we are family." And they accept them without question because it is easier that way. You cannot do that. Your brain is not built for it. What you have is hyperacute pattern recognition. Your mind does not process what people say. It processes what people do. It tracks facial microexpression, the slight shift in someone's voice, the half-second delay before they answer. Psychologists call this thin slicing. The ability to extract accurate conclusions from narrow fragments of behavior. When someone praises you but their eyes stay flat, you register the envy. When someone agrees but their voice tightens slightly, you hear the lie underneath. You see the architecture behind the performance. For most people, a social gathering is enjoyable. For you, it is an overwhelming flood of data. You are watching everyone simultaneously. You are watching them suppress, perform, and pretend. And because you can see the theater, you cannot participate in it. It feels like being asked to act in a play where everyone else is deeply committed to the script, and you are standing there thinking, none of this is real. This makes you threatening. People who are invested in their own illusions do not want someone nearby who can see through them. When you sit quietly in a group, you are not being shy. You are observing, and they feel it. They sense that you are reading them. They will tell you that you are too intense, too cold, too difficult to read. What they actually mean is this: you are a mirror, and I hate what I see when I look at you. If you have lost friends, stop and ask yourself honestly, did you lose them, or did you simply see through them? Did they leave because of something you did wrong, or did they run because you were the only person in the room who was not buying the act? Your solitude is the cost of your perception. You are allergic to inauthenticity. While others can absorb social performance and pretend it is nourishment, your system rejects it entirely. You are not lonely. You are simply incapable of being deceived. Trait 2. Intolerance for shallow exchange. Physics has a concept called entropy. Every system naturally drifts toward disorder, toward noise, toward randomness. Most conversation is exactly that, noise. Did you catch the game? Can you believe this weather? Let me tell you what my coworker did. It is the recycling of hollow information. If you have few friends, it is likely because you carry what personality research calls a high need for cognition. This is not simply intelligence. It is a biological drive. Studies show that individuals high in openness and intellect experience something close to physical discomfort when forced into shallow interaction. It depletes your dopamine. It elevates your cortisol. Small talk to you is not harmless courtesy. It is theft. It steals your time and gives you nothing in return. While most people operate at the level of survival and social belonging, and their conversations reflect that, you operate somewhere else entirely. You want to discuss ideas, systems, the future, the nature of consciousness, what it all means. When you try to introduce those conversations into a casual setting, you already know what happens. Nervous laughter, an awkward pause. Someone immediately redirects back to something manageable. And you are left with a choice. You can reduce yourself. Perform enthusiasm for things that bore you. Pretend to care about celebrity drama just to be included, or you can go quiet. Most people choose the reduction. They would rather shrink themselves than stand alone. You chose silence, not out of arrogance, out of economy. You understand that your mental energy is finite. Spending it on meaningless exchange feels like setting cash on fire. You crave the conversation that happens at 3 in the morning about mortality, about what consciousness actually is, about where all of this is heading. And because almost no one can survive at that depth, almost no one can be your friend. You are a deep-sea creature in a world of shallow water. Do not apologize for your depth. The ocean does not shrink itself because someone is afraid to swim. Trait 3. The immune response to control. Here is where it gets darker. There is a behavioral pattern that gets labeled as defiant or difficult in children. In adults who harness it correctly, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes the refusal to surrender to authority that has not earned its position. Most friend groups are not built on equality. They are built on invisible hierarchy, unspoken rules about who you are allowed to disagree with, what opinions are permitted, whose side you are expected to take. We despise this person, so you must despise them too. We believe this, so you must believe it too. The group demands ideological uniformity, behavioral compliance. This is the herd instinct in its purest form. Research on conformity demonstrated that nearly 3/4 of people will openly agree with a statement they know to be false simply to avoid social friction. If the group insists the shorter line is longer, the individual will agree. You belong to the other quarter. You are the anomaly, the variable that refuses to normalize. When a social circle requires your conformity as the price of admission, something in your brain fires a threat response, not discomfort. A threat. You feel suffocated by the herd, not protected by it. You cannot manufacture respect for someone simply because they are popular. You cannot adopt a belief simply because it is trending. You require evidence. You require logic. You require honesty. This makes you a nightmare for narcissists. Narcissists require surrounding themselves with people who affirm and applaud. You do not affirm without reason. You ask why. And why is the word a fragile ego cannot survive? Because you refuse to be controlled, you are cast out. The group labels you arrogant, difficult. They withdraw access and expect the isolation to break you. They expect you to come back compliant. You do not come back, you build. This inability to be domesticated is the exact reason you walk alone, and it is the exact reason you are free. While they navigate webs of obligation and manufactured loyalty, you are walking a path that is entirely your own. You traded popularity for sovereignty, and sovereignty is a solitary domain, but it is the only one worth inhabiting. Trait 4, the architect's obsession. Most people treat their lives as waiting rooms, waiting for the weekend, the holiday, the retirement. They use social connection as a way to pass the time they are afraid to face directly. You experience time differently. You feel it passing the way you would feel a physical pressure. You are not here to wait. You are here to construct something, a business, a body of work, a philosophy, a version of yourself that you can respect. You are driven by a vision of what is possible. This is the architect trait. And here is the brutal truth about construction. It demands total focus. Neuroscience demonstrates that the brain operates in two fundamentally opposed modes. The default mode network, responsible for social cognition, memory, and unfocused wandering thought, and the task-positive network, responsible for deep work, focused execution, and flow. These networks actively suppress one another. You cannot be deeply building and deeply socializing at the same time. The brain does not allow it. History is populated with figures of extraordinary output who maintained almost no social life. They were not mourning the loss of parties. They were too consumed by the work. You have likely already arrived at this understanding. Every hour spent in low-value social interaction is an hour taken from the construction of your future. So you began declining the invitations, the nights out, the casual gatherings. And when you decline consistently enough, the invitations stop arriving. Good. The filter is functioning. There is a phase in transformation where the organism has to be entirely alone. The caterpillar inside the cocoon is completely isolated. There is no social life inside the dissolution. There is only reconstruction. If you are inside that phase right now, your solitude is not suffering. It is biology. It is necessary. Do not let anyone pull you out before you are ready. They will destroy you. Stay in the dark. Do the work. The relationships you lose while you are building were never going to survive the version of you that emerges anyway. Stop. Take a breath. I can feel the objection forming, the voice that says, but we are social creatures. We need connection. Is this just a story I am telling myself to cope with something I cannot fix? That is a legitimate question. And the honest answer is, yes, you need connection. But you are starving because you are searching for real food in a room that only serves empty calories. You do not need more connection. You need the right connection. And because you are rare, the statistical likelihood of finding it in any given room is extremely low. If you occupy the top percentile of awareness, ambition, or depth, you will naturally align with only a small fraction of the people you encounter. In a room of 100, most will not reach you, and you will unsettle most of them. Which brings us to the fifth trait, the one that explains why your presence alone is enough to make people uncomfortable. Trait 5, the unconscious mirror. Have you ever entered a room, said nothing, done nothing, and still felt hostility directed at you? Have you ever been targeted by someone who had no visible reason to target you? It was not weakness they were responding to. It was something else. People who carry high self-awareness and low dependence on external approval function as blank surfaces. Others project onto them. This is the Jungian concept of the shadow. When someone who is performative, insecure, and dependent on validation encounters someone who is still contained and self-sufficient, they do not simply see a different kind of person. They see the version of themselves they have buried and denied. Your silence amplifies their internal noise. Your independence exposes their dependence. You become a walking representation of everything they chose not to become. And because the ego cannot process shame without converting it into something more tolerable, it converts it into aggression. They attack you to remove the reflection. If you have no friends, part of the reason is often that you refuse to participate in the mutual performance of most friendships. The unspoken agreement where I pretend you are right and you pretend I am fine. Where I validate your victimhood and you validate mine. It is a contract of shared delusion. You will not sign it. When someone brings you a problem they have constructed themselves, you do not say, "That is so unfair." You ask, "What are you going to do to change it?" And in doing so, you shatter the agreement. You become the disruptor. And in someone else's narrative of victimhood, the person who refuses to validate the story will always be cast as the villain. Understand what that actually means. Being the villain in a story told by someone avoiding reality is evidence that your perception is intact. You are not isolated because you are unworthy of connection. You are isolated because you make reality impossible to ignore. And for most people, reality is the one thing they have organized their entire lives to avoid. Trait 6, temporal displacement. The world operates on immediate reward, the next notification, the next distraction, the next moment of stimulation. The collective focus rarely extends beyond the present week. You live somewhere else. You live in the future. Your mind is constantly running projections, simulating consequences, calculating trajectories years in advance. When the people around you say, "Stop worrying, just enjoy tonight," your mind is already running the long-term calculation. You see where the pattern ends. You see the cost of the habit they are celebrating tonight. You see the outcome they are not yet willing to look at. This is temporal displacement. You are cognitively operating 5, 10, sometimes 20 years ahead of the people in your immediate environment. This makes genuine connection almost structurally impossible. How do you share space with someone who is absorbed in a minor workplace conflict when your attention is fixed on the direction of your entire life? It is not contempt. It is distance. The same distance between a parent and a child. You can feel warmth toward the child. You can care for the child. But you cannot be intellectual equals with the child. This creates a particular form of isolation, the isolation of the watchman. You are standing at the edge looking at what is coming while everyone below is sleeping soundly. They call you anxious, they call you heavy, until the thing you warned them about arrives. Then they want your guidance, they want your foresight, they want access to the clarity they dismissed. By then, most of the time, you have already understood that you cannot carry people who choose not to see. You move toward the future or you stay behind with the past. You chose the future. And the future is an unpopulated place. No one else has arrived there yet. They want you to focus on the social drama. You are focused on the destination. They want you to celebrate the moment. You are building the outcome. And because your internal clock will not synchronize with theirs, you walk the road without them. But there is one trait remaining, the rarest of all 7, the one that does not just make you misunderstood, the one that makes you genuinely threatening. Trait 7, the autotelic personality, the internal engine. Most people are external machines. They require outside input to function: praise, attention, acknowledgement, someone to witness them. Without external validation, their sense of self begins to erode. Leave the average person in complete isolation for 3 days and they come apart. The ego collapses because it has nothing external to reflect itself against. You are different. Psychology defines the autotelic personality as someone who generates motivation from within the activity itself, not from the reward that follows it. You are not doing things for applause. You are doing them because something internal demands it. You read because you must understand. You train because you must be capable. You create because the concept inside you has no other exit. This makes you immune to the primary mechanism of social control. Think about how society manages behavior. Through the threat of exclusion, agree with us or we will cut you off. Perform for us or you will be alone. That threat functions on the overwhelming majority because they are terrified of social isolation. They are running on external fuel and the supply can be cut off. When that threat reaches you, the equation does not work. They say, "We will freeze you out." You say, "That is fine, I have work to finish." They say you will be completely alone. You say, "I know." You proceed anyway. This terrifies people in a way they cannot fully articulate. A person who genuinely does not require external validation cannot be leveraged. They cannot be manipulated through the promise of acceptance or the threat of rejection. You are not operating within their system of control. In a social environment built on mutual dependency, someone who is entirely self-sustaining is perceived as a threat, not because of what you do, because of what you demonstrate is possible. You remind them that their hunger for approval is a choice, and they despise you for it. Now look at the complete picture: the pattern detector who sees through performance, the depth seeker who cannot tolerate shallow exchange, the sovereign mind who refuses to be controlled, the architect who is consumed by construction, the mirror who reflects what others fear in themselves, the visionary who lives years ahead of the present. the internal engine who requires nothing external to burn. Do you see what that combination produces? Not a loner, not a failure, not someone broken, a mind in exile and apex presence. The reason you have few or no friends is not because something went wrong with you. It is because you are incompatible with the domestication that modern society requires. Society is a system designed to produce compliant, consuming, dependent participants. Education trains repetition. Employment trains obedience. Media trains envy. Social circles train conformity. You failed the conditioning. Your system refused the installation. And because you would not become domestic, you were pushed toward the edges. You are the wolf that was driven from the village because it would not accept the collar. And now you stand in the dark outside the village lights, watching, wondering why you cannot belong. Stop wondering. You do not belong inside the enclosure. You were never meant for it, but I have to warn you of something. There is a trap here, and it catches many people who share these traits. When isolation extends long enough, the mind turns on itself. You begin to absorb the rejection. You begin to think perhaps they are correct, perhaps I am the problem, perhaps I am arrogant and unlovable and this is simply who I am. And so you begin to erode your own edges. You lower the standards. You allow someone into your life who diminishes you just to have someone there. You return to the group you left, performing a version of yourself you outgrew, just to silence the emptiness. Do not do this. When a wolf performs submission, it does not fool the sheep. The sheep are afraid anyway, and the wolf wastes away. If you descend to a frequency that is not yours, you will not experience connection. You will experience static. You will feel more profoundly alone, surrounded by people pretending to be someone you are not than you ever felt in genuine solitude. The weight of the mask is far heavier than the weight of silence. So what is the actual answer? How do you live well in a world that was not designed with you in mind? You must stop treating your solitude as a sentence and begin treating it as a workshop. This is your period of refinement, your reconstruction phase. If you have no friends right now, understand what has actually been given to you. The noise has been cleared, the distractions have been removed. You have been handed the rarest resource in modern life, uninterrupted time and silence. Do not spend it grieving. Step 1. Radical acceptance of your own standards. Stop treating your requirements as something to apologize for. If you require depth, precision, loyalty, and honesty and you cannot find them, you wait. You do not consume what is available simply because you are hungry. The moment you accept less, you tell yourself and the universe that less is what you deserve. And that is exactly what you will continue to receive. Hold the standard in the emptiness. Be willing to walk alone for a year, 5 years, a decade. However long it requires. One person who genuinely comprehends what you are building is worth 10,000 people who simply want to fill the time. Step 2. The signal strategy. You will not find your kind by searching for them. You find them by becoming something that cannot be ignored. A lighthouse does not move toward the ships. It stands fixed and it shines. The ships navigate toward it. You become the lighthouse by building without stopping, by speaking your perspective without apology, by becoming formidable in your craft, your body, your thinking. When you reach a level of excellence that is genuinely undeniable, you transmit a signal, a specific one. And the others like you, the ones hiding inside their own work in their own solitude, will receive it. Your future people are not in bars or social gatherings. They are working. They are building. They are invisible just like you. And the only way to reach them is to rise until they can see you. Step 3. The functional disguise. This is the practical lesson. While you are building, you still have to operate within the world as it is. Do not walk around announcing your contempt for mediocrity. Do not inform your colleagues that you find their conversations entropic. That is not clarity. That is self-destruction. Learn to move through ordinary social environments with grace. Be courteous. Be warm. Engage in small talk when the situation demands it. Treat social interaction in everyday settings as a skill, not a reflection of your values. You are undercover. You are present without being consumed. The smile is real enough. The politeness is genuine enough, but the core of what you are remains protected. Reserve your real thoughts for people who have demonstrated they can carry them. For everyone else, you give them what they can receive. This is not dishonesty. This is discretion. Now let me be direct about the cost of all of this. This road is not the path to happiness. Happiness is accessible and relatively inexpensive. A decent evening with agreeable company is enough for most people. This is the path to meaning. And meaning is costly. It costs you the warmth of belonging. It costs you the comfort of being understood by the majority. It costs you the ease of fitting into a life that was designed for someone else. The return on that cost is a life that is genuinely and irreversibly yours. Most people die having lived a script that was handed to them. The curriculum was designed by their parents, their institutions, their social circles. They arrive at the end surrounded by witnesses, and they die as strangers to themselves. You may walk through cold stretches of your life. You may endure long periods without the warmth of genuine company. But when you look at yourself, you see a person, not a reflection assembled from other people's expectations. A person who possesses their own thinking, their own direction, their own internal world. That is not a consolation prize. That is the only thing that actually belongs to you. Solitude is the price of freedom, and the people who are willing to pay it become something the modern world has almost completely eradicated: a sovereign human being. Look at where you are right now. Look at the empty space across from you. It is not a symbol of failure. It is a reservation. It is held for something specific, for the rare kind of loyalty that does not compromise, for the rare kind of honesty that does not perform. For the people who can find you at the level you are building toward. Until they arrive, do not fill that space with substitutes. Do not flood it with noise to make the silence bearable. Honor the silence. Because inside that silence, you are developing the capacity for the kind of conversation that actually matters. You are not late. You are not left behind. You are simply the first one to arrive at the meeting point. Hold your ground. They are coming, but only to the ones who can endure the wait. So here is the question I want to leave you with. Now that you understand what these traits actually are, now that you can see that what felt like damage is actually design, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to compress yourself back into a space that was never built for you? Are you going to clip your own edges just to pass through a door that leads nowhere worth going? Or are you going to accept the cold, accept the solitude, and keep building? Because the moment you stop trying to be accepted is the moment the ascent begins. But I want you to understand something. Ascending makes you visible. And visibility is not only attractive to allies. The higher you rise, the more resistance you encounter. There are dynamics, psychological traps, patterns of opposition that only activate once you step fully into your power. You think the loneliness was the difficult part. It was not. The loneliness was preparation. What comes after is the real test. What do you do with the strength once it is fully yours? How do you use it without losing what made you worth building in the first place? That is the conversation that cannot be had in a video like this one.